Hey, hey, happy Friday. Happy Digest Day. Megan Schultz here, host of Cream City Dreams podcast on Wednesdays and these small, bite-sized Cream City Digests on Fridays. I hope you're digging this season of joy, listening to all the women who are bringing joy to our city. And you know what's bringing me joy is this detox I'm on, this social media detox in the month of June. And I thought that maybe sharing my experience with this might inspire some of you to pay attention to your attention, where you put it, who you give it to, and really being more intentional about living in the present. And isn't that really what we're all just trying to do? Hey, happy Friday, listeners. I have a treat for you today. I am back with Thekla Brumder Ross. If you haven't been following along this season or the mini season that we did together in May, where we talked all about our attention and where we put it and who we give it to and how we give it up and how we get it back ultimately. So I asked Thekla to come on sort of for a mid social media detox check-in. See how we're doing, see how I'm doing. And I know, Thekla, you were working on a little bit of your attention or on your attention and giving some of that back to the real world, the real life, away from our phones. So, golly, here we are, mid-June, June. Well, as we're speaking, it's Wednesday the 18th. So 18 days in for me.
That's incredible, Megan. I've been thinking about you each and every day of this month. You know, I've voice memoed you and checked in and wondered how it's going.
Yes.
And when I'm stuck in my own dopamine loop, I often think of you. And when I have a success, I often think of you. I cheerlead and think,
Yay.
I'm doing it, Megan's doing it too. So thank you. How's it going? I'm sure the audience and I are equally as eager to know how's it been. And remember, all data is good data. So don't hesitate for the positive and the challenges.
Yes. I mean, honestly, and I said this last week in the digest, I am really loving it. I don't miss being on Instagram. I don't miss being on Facebook. There hasn't been anything. There's been a couple in real life things that have happened that I know people would have shared pictures that maybe I would have liked to see, but then the person just emailed me the pictures or just texted me the pictures and I was able to see them anyway. And I don't know, I'm not missing the time for sure that I used to devote to socials. But I'll tell you what, and this is where I would be curious about the neuroscientific, the research behind. Mm-hmm. I think that my screen use hasn't actually gone down, which was kind of the whole point of this. I just assumed in my head that it was all socials. It was all Facebook and Instagram's fault that I was on my phone so much. But in fact, I got email on my phone. I got texts on my phone. And I feel like those are ramping up even more. I don't know if it's like because I'm feeling maybe like isolated because I'm not on the socials and not getting that dopamine from I'm using the word connection with air quotes, right? Is that a thing, like replacing one addiction with another? I feel like there's a name for that. I don't know what it is, but.
Yeah, it's called cross addiction. Very common. Just give yourself grace right now. First of all, let's just go back a second and compliment you. I heard you say that you haven't missed it. You haven't missed Instagram and you haven't missed Facebook. And you've gotten connections from friends and been able to share in life, even though you're not on it. So I just want to highlight that and let people hear that. And then I heard you say that, I'm noticing. So first of all, great insight, great paying attention to your own behavior and seeing what's going on. I'm still using the phone, the emails, the texting in as much of a hit as I maybe was before with the socials. You are not alone. So this slot machine 24/7 in the palm of our hands is constantly, as we talked about before, rewiring those dopamine reinforcement loops. So you're needing more of the drug, right? I'm in this with you. You know this. I'm not on socials. I haven't been on for years outside of LinkedIn. So, LinkedIn is still a social. Let me be clear about that. However, I'm equally as susceptible to the constant pulls and the needs and being with it. And you and I talked about how practicing time away, you left your phone in the car at pickup. I talked about, spending time in my parents' home without the phone anywhere near me and looking at art and moving around in the space. And there are certain activities we're used to doing without our phones. Maybe some of us hike without them. We exercise without them. Maybe we cook without them. Whatever it is, those we need to increase more of those time opportunities that we're away from it. It's called
Mm,
Anna Lemke, the famous addiction psychiatrist. She wrote Dopamine Nation, talks about a dopamine fast, like because we've gotten too much of a good thing. So it used to be, we talked about this, it used to be that you had to work really hard to get a small dose of dopamine. That's how
mm,
it used to be. We talked about that in my dating example.
mm-hmm.
Now we get too much dopamine for the easiest things. We don't even have to work hard for them, right? The email check, the
Yes.
text, the notification. And so we have been flooded, our brains have been flooded by dopamine. Do you know that the pleasure and pain system in our brain is in the same place? They're
Uh-huh.
balance scales. They're
Huh.
balance scales. So, and oftentimes when we do too much of a good thing, let's say drinking, for example, how do you feel the next day?
Yeah. Huh.
Pretty disgusting, right? The pain and pleasure scales are off balance. And this opportunity that you've created in this month is by creating awareness for yourself about, okay, I'm still getting the rush of dopamine from these other places. So in what ways can I create these dopamine fasts, as
Mm,
Dr. Lemke calls them, spaces and places that you can be free of those constant hits. And
yeah.
I'm with you on that journey. It's really, really, really hard in modern society. So you're not alone in that.
Yeah. And I've been thinking about that word titration too from the attention class that I took with Molly Caro May. And just the tiniest little shifts. Like I have moved, so I have moved my phone out from my bedside. It's not there, it's in the guest room bedside. And that's close enough that I could still sit in my bed until the very last minute and just quickly hop up and go put it over there to charge, which is like something, right? It's not nothing, but it doesn't defeat like the whole idea of keeping it out of your room. In my head was so that evenings were just phone free, bedrooms were phone free, but it's so close. So maybe what I need to do this week is move it from the guest bedroom upstairs, which is right next to my room, to downstairs, where it would be a real pain, to go up and down once I'm kind of in bed and sleepy.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe just these little, and I guess that I'm having a little bit of a panic is the wrong word and too strong of a word, but like just a little like, oh, it's already June 18th. It's almost 2/3 over. I don't know if I want to go back in July 1st. I said I was just doing it for a month, but I think I need more to really have it sink in.
That's your brain asking for that. Like that is your neuroplasticity being like, I see the progress we're making, even with those really beautiful small steps, like putting the phone outside your room, right? The people, places, removing, redesigning our spaces, as Jay likes to say, the author of Reclaim Your Mind. You're redesigning your spaces, thus you're causing greater distance between your dopamine hits by having your phone somewhere else. And it's making a difference. And I ask the audience members, and you are doing it, you're modeling it. It's the insight around the behaviors too. So I'll give you an example for me. You know that I don't pick up my phone before the sun rises in terms of like looking at the phone. I may move it into a different location, but I don't pick it up. I don't have to tell myself now not to pick it up because I know exactly what happens to how I feel in my body when I start looking at texts and emails. I'm like in the
Mm,
rush of the day and I'm already overwhelmed and there's one more thing for me to do. And that doesn't allow that quiet, spacious mind that I need to resource myself and nourish myself for the day. And so for me now, it's not even I have to tell myself I can't have. It's like I get to have my quiet time. I
mm,
get to have my time away from my phone for that. And so notice those shifts in terms of your insight. My husband, for example, knows that at bedtime, it's not just about not having the phone in the bed. He knows that I don't want to have the conversations that are about the phone, the negative news, the intense thing we need to follow up on right before bed. I want to have a conversation with him organically about what we want to talk about as we're falling asleep at night. And usually that's not about war. It's
yeah.
about something a little bit more intimate.
Yeah.
So again, it's the values and the insight behind the behavior changes that you're making.
Yes. Yeah. And I've really tried to notice too how things feel different in terms of just going through the world. And I'll give you an example. So I was walking on Downer and this older gentleman walked out of CVS. And like when I say older gentleman, I'm going to guess he was in his 80s. And he had a copy of Men's Health tucked under his arm. And I just thought the juxtaposition of like this magazine with this burly man on the cover being held in the crux of an elbow by an older gentleman. I don't know. I think old me would have taken a picture of it and put a funny caption under it. But then I let my mind wander a little more and just thought more about just kind of waxed philosophically for a while and just thought about it and not without the need to share it with somebody. Do you know what I mean? Just to experience it myself and be in that moment. And I'm finding a lot of those kinds of moments now that I'm looking at things longer. I'm pausing, I'm thinking, I'm not just like an immediate, haha, that would be a funny something. Do you know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
yes, you're enjoying life. You're
Yeah.
like, I call it savoring the moment. I mean, truly, you're
Yes.
savoring the moment. I love the example, first of all. Way to go with the gentleman with the men's health magazine. Like, my mind would have been like, good for you. Right on. Like, what about this resonates with you? I love that. Like, don't let ageism get in the way.
Yeah.
Like, or the man on the cover. Like, own your part in this. I mean,
Yes.
talk about the longevity conversation in that. I mean, that's beautiful. But yeah, what I'm hearing you say is that you are savoring your life and you're not thinking about living your life for your next post. You're thinking about living your life to live your life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
my kids are noticing it too. They know that I'm in this for the month. And so they've been calling me on it if they see me on my phone, like, Mom, get off your phone, Mom, get off your phone. And there's nothing more triggering for me than hearing a kid tell me to get off my phone.
Oh,
So,
I'm with you. I am 100% with you. And I have to say that the boomer generation, who I know has also been listening to your podcast because I've gotten a lot of feedback from that generation, they're often told by our kids to get off their phones. So,
mm-hmm.
mhm.
I feel like that could be actually, I've got a couple different groups of listeners or non-listeners who are reacting to our series. One, as you just mentioned, is the boomers. So I know my mom's listening. I know some of her friends are listening, and I think that is a topic for that. I think attention is a real topic for them, and a topic for the people, as you say, like who are noticing them and their attention and their screen use and phone use and whatnot. And the other group who I've noticed sort of push back a little bit when I tell them about what I'm doing are the people and I'll say moms because that's who I've been interacting with, who are feeling guilt. I don't know if guilty is the right word, but not feeling like the way they have set things out for their family or for their kids, it's too late. I can't fix it now. Their kids are already addicted. This is just the way it is for kids and I can't do anything about it. And don't really want to engage because I think there's a level of shame, or is it guilt? I know we talked about
Yeah.
shame versus guilt, but
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good clarification. The shame is like, I am bad. I'm a bad human. And the guilt is I did something bad. And I think in this case, we're talking a little bit about both. One is like, I'm a bad parent because I gave them a phone or a tablet or what have you. And I did something bad, right? And so it's a little bit of a mixture of the shame bucket and the guilt bucket. And let me just like, give a lot of deep compassion for my friends who have kids who are teenagers, my siblings, my cousins, because they didn't have the information that you and I have about
mm-hmm.
these slot machines 24/7 in the palm of our hands. It's a drug. It is a
Yeah.
drug. And we're all waking up to it, not just the kids, but the adults too. And to your point, there's nothing harder than when your kids tell you, like, hey, mom, get off your drug. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's role
Mm-hmm.
reverse, right? It's like holding up the mirror. It's why we started this whole conversation, right?
Yes.
We want to model the behavior we want to see in our kids. And let me just go back to compassion for those parents. And I would love to have that conversation with a teenager,
Mm.
and really get into the nitty gritty of like, Does it feel inevitable? Does it feel too far gone? We talked about the Boston Children's Hospital lab that did work with a focus group of teenagers, and they want structure, they want restrictions, they want boundaries around the phone. So I'd be curious if that's what we're seeing in our community. And to the parents, to just welcome them back in, and like, how do we meet them where they are, right? How do we not shame them and cause extra guilt, and start from where they are? Because it's not inevitable, as Tristan Harris says from the Center for Humane and Technology. It's not. Just like if you gave them a drug, it's not inevitable that you have to just say, okay, well, they're going to be addicted to opiates or alcohol for the rest of their life. No, we can make a difference. Every day is a choice. We're making a choice, and we can join them. We don't have to shame them. We can join them and meet them where they are to help them along this journey. So thank you for mentioning them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think, yeah, this is definitely a conversation that is still very much needed, and that we should have more than in just a quick Friday update digest, that we should really dig into the meat of that, because I think it affects a lot more people than maybe would even feel comfortable holding up their hand to say, this is me. You know what I mean? Because of that shame, maybe.
100%. And Megan, we can make it anonymous. We could have folks come on who it's just their voice, and they don't need to say their name, and but they can get honest and vulnerable about it. Maybe they don't want to have their voice on it, and they write us, and we share it, like we can make it accessible for folks so that they can feel seen and heard.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the last thing I want to end on, just to let you know, that I'm kind of proud of, is that the podcast numbers are doing well. I mean, granted, these are lovely women, fantastic women who've been on the pod, but I think I have made it a point to remind each of the guests that I'm not on social, so I won't be sharing this, but here's everything you need to share it, however you want to share it. And honestly, I'm not there to see if they're even doing that, but I'm trusting that they are. And the numbers are as good, if not better, than seasons in the past. So there's part of me that's like, why bother coming back? Right? I don't think the algorithms are doing anything. I think I don't know what it is, but it's something.
I think I mentioned this to you earlier. I think it's real human networks. We heal in community. We get hurt in community often, but we heal in community, and we all live in community networks. And when you're doing something positive, you're sharing it with your community, and then they're sharing it with their friends. And then if it relates to them, they're sharing it with their friends and their friends. And yes, social media has done that at scale. Don't let me deny that. And we do this naturally in our human networks. And this podcast is an incredible podcast representative of Milwaukee women. And I think Milwaukee women do a damn good job of letting each other know how to support each other. And so what a beautiful thing that you noticed that. And what a beautiful thing that you feel empowered. Like, hey, I can still run a successful business and not be dependent on Instagram's algorithm.
Yes.
Yep. It's pretty empowering.
Yep. Yep. So listeners, if you are enjoying these conversations like the one I'm having today with Thekla, please share the podcast, send the link, whatever means you want to share it. That would be great. Cause I do think word of mouth and those real life connections like you're talking about make a difference,
Yeah. Can I end with a couple compliments to you, just because I think what you're doing here on your own podcast and modeling is quite remarkable. You're being honest with yourself about your habits and setting limits, and how it can help you regain a sense of control and peace and happiness in your life. You're rewiring your brain. We know our brains are malleable and plastic, and you're able to do that. You are looking at your longer term habits and how that contributes to the health and well-being, not just of you, but of your family and what you're modeling for your kids. And then you're looking at the sustainability of your business as a professional woman.
Mom, son cut himself.
Oh, shit. My kid cut himself. Hold on. Listeners, I'm adding in a little postscript here after the recording to let you know that my son is okay. It was fine. It was a little cut, but you know how fingers bleed profusely, so it scared them. I'm leaving it in also because it's an interesting story as to why this happened. I asked for a bread knife for Mother's Day and got a very nice new sharp bread knife, which is what he cut himself with. But he was using that because we have made this agreement over the summer, and all this talk about screens. We've made an agreement that they came up with. I was very clear and tried very hard to make it something that they were agreeable with. And they decided that in exchange for being able to do their screen time in a parameter of hours without having to ask me to add the screen time, just to be able to hop on and use it, that they would do their screen time after 3 o'clock. So up until 3 o'clock, they just have no access to screens. It doesn't turn on until 3 o'clock. And so it's been interesting to watch them in the mornings have to amuse themselves and have to come up with things to do because they can't have their screens, which they might otherwise ordinarily want to be on. And a couple times they have begged, they have said, oh, please, can we just today, can you just give it to me today and then I won't ask again? Of course, you know how that goes. So today, my son had decided that he was going to bake a ginger cake, and we didn't have any molasses, so he had to walk to the store to pick up some molasses. He paid for that with his own money. I'm expecting to be asked to be paid back later, but it hasn't come up yet. And he made a ginger cake, and part of that is, I guess, was using the knife. I'm not sure why he needed a bread knife to make the ginger cake, what he was cutting, so we'll have to talk about bread knife skills. Guess this is a learning opportunity, but thankfully he did not chop off a finger. He is okay, but I think it's been interesting to watch what the kids do when I say no, and when I don't renege on our agreement of 3 o'clock for screen times. They make their own fun. It happened with my other son yesterday when I said no at 2 o'clock to his screen time an hour early. He found some water balloons in the basement, and he and his friends went outside and had a water balloon fight. Have they picked up the balloons? No. Is my yard a mess? Yes. But I guess those are the consequences I'm willing to deal with. Having plastic bits of balloon all over my yard and having a bandaged finger to see that my kids do know how to make their own fun without screens. All right, now back to the podcast where Thekla waited so patiently for me as I ran downstairs, bandaged up my son, and then came back. He's okay. He's okay, listeners. Just needs a Band-Aid, but you know how fingers bleed. So, yeah.
Well, Megan, you're doing what we all do best, which is the dualistic life of mothering and working. And so job well done. And listeners, we are here for you. Write us, let us know what's going on. And we look forward to these follow-up conversations around parents with older kids and possibly boomers and so much more.
So much more. Yes. And I will just end by saying that there is a chance to meet us in real life again. We had one we'll talk about in another podcast because that was a super helpful, really generative conversation with some women who showed up to the coffee. And we're doing another event a week from today, a week from Friday, which will be a forest walk, a guided forest walk. Come out for a walk in the woods with a friend of mine who just got her certification to be a forest healing guide and experience life off screens and in the real world. I'm all about getting out and making new friends and being in a new space and trying new things. So why let kids have all the fun at summer camps?
It's so true. And gosh, forest healing guide.
Yeah, I know, right?
Look what technology has created in terms of the wealth of opportunities you can get certified in.
Yes,
forest healing.
I'm so excited to see what this is all about. I think it's going to be beautiful, and hopefully it'll be a beautiful day. So I will put a link in the show notes of how you can join the walk. There's only spots for 15, so they're filling up quickly. So nab your spot while you can if you're interested. And Thekla, thank you for joining me again.
As always, such a gift to be in conversation about this, and more to come on my end in this regard, in this conversation. More work, as I said, happening with a colleague of mine, Kit Hayes, around this work. So get excited about that. And I'll keep your podcast listeners posted about that and any news and info.
Yeah, please do. All right. I'll be back on the podcast next week, listeners, Wednesday with Steph Salvia of Joy Engine. So tune in wherever you get your podcast, like and subscribe so you don't miss the episode. Until then, Milwaukee.
Keep on dreaming.